This is Internet Business Beginners, Episode 1. We are recording our first podcast. This is podcast numero uno. I am Ben Inkster.
And I'm Derek Sheehan.
And we're normal guys. Well, at least mostly normal. I consider myself slightly odd, a bit geeky, perhaps.
You are odd. I will agree with this.
All right. So does that make you even, if I'm odd?
That's another podcast, perhaps.
Okay, we could run with that. So a little bit about me. Again, normal guy. I am married. I have kids. I have 4 kids. I have built a number of businesses over the years. This online business will be my 4th business in the last 10 years, which sounds like they've all fallen apart. But no, they haven't. They've all been very successful businesses and have built up and sold off my shares in them and moved on. Specifically, my last business was a company called Gratisites, which was a web development company, and we built it up to the point where it was making a little over $300,000 in a year. So, I mean, successful businesses. And I wanted to build an online business and tell you guys all about it.
And I'm Derek, and I'm married as well. I don't have 4 children, but I have 3 children. All under the age of all under the age of 9. So I have a very busy house. I would consider myself a normal guy, but I do like to have that jack of all trades title because I do like to have my hands in a lot of different things. I like to try different things, and so I'm here just representing sort of the normal part of the world that's interested in online business. So. Yeah, hopefully Ben will help me create a business since he has that sort of background, and we'll see. But I'm a minister. That is my profession. And as you know, ministers have a 24/7 sort of schedule. So what do I want to see out of the business? Wow. Well, let's ask Ben first. What does he want to see out of his online business?
What do I want to see out of a business? Well, I want to see a little bit more freedom of time. In each of the businesses that I've built previously, it's been very, very hands-on, very a huge amount of interacting with clients, and fairly tightly regimented schedule. You know, there's a certain time you have to be at the office. There's a certain time you go home. There are certain meetings and all of those sorts of things. And I'd like to have a little bit of some control over that. I'd like to be able to take, occasionally sleep in, which would be, really cool. With 4 kids, I don't know if that's realistic or not, but that's the hope. The other side of things is one of my kids actually has a form of autism, and so there's a fair amount of time that I have to be at home, quite simply, and it's this provides a vehicle for that to happen. Some passive income would be good, a little extra coin coming in, anything to help, pay the bills and all of that stuff. And, in fact, I have started up my my website, and we'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later on. But within my first week of having it online, I actually made $100. Just a couple of simple sales, some affiliate stuff, and that's come in, and it's not anything that I had to go and do a whole pile of sales for, which is awesome. So this does work, and you can make it happen. I mean, how about you, Derek? What do you want to see out of an online business?
Well, I think you've hit a lot of points that are very similar to myself and probably to many of those listening. Time freedom is a pretty important thing. I don't have a 9-to-5 job. As a minister, I work from 12 midnight to 12 midnight. I'm 24/7 available for people, and I don't have time to work on other businesses. I think residual income is a smart idea. I think online business has so much potential, and just kind of having that jack of all trades feel in me, I'm curious. I want to try it. I think it's something that sort of has minimal input that can have maximum output. So, I don't have a ton of vacation time in the year, but when I do, I find that I really, can't do too much because I don't know too many ministers out there that are rolling in the money.
And if they
And
are, I'd be a little concerned about that.
well, I guess that's true, but the fact of the matter is that I'd like to use that time and bless my family and take trips and that sort of thing. If I made a few $1,000s extra year, that would be fantastic. Of course, I would obviously want to aim higher than that, but I'm not looking to quit my job. That's not the whole point of this. This is extra income and extra time that comes with it. So, yeah, it's pretty simple. I think most people would agree, and that's sort of where we're at. So.
Sure.
Where do we start? How do you build an online business? I am clueless.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if there is a true, the correct way, all in capital letters, way to do things. I can tell you a little bit what I've done, and some people that I know and how they've built their business. And I think everyone sort of needs to just get out and do it, and try a few things, make a few mistakes, try building something, and see where it goes. I mean, like for myself, where did I start? I mean, I set up a business. I have a corporation. I bought a domain. I set up hosting. I set up my website. I started building an online following.
Well, hold on, wait, just back up for a second. Again, being the person that doesn't have the background that you do have, I've heard of these terminologies. You're sort of saying them like it's second nature, which perhaps it is for you, but just for me and the rest of the people listening to this podcast, maybe you can just back up and explain how to get a domain. I mean, I've never had my own business. I've heard of you have to have a domain, but don't know the clue of hosting and website building. And so back up a bit and give me some details here.
All right. Well, and just based on your question there, I think that maybe I should clarify. There is a difference between a business and a domain, right? Oftentimes the names are the same. So, for example, Microsoft Corporation happens to own the internet domain Microsoft.com, amongst others, but that's one that they do own. But a corporation or a business name doesn't necessarily have to be the same as your corporate or rather as your online name. So, for example, I actually did set up a full corporation for my business. It's Geek Incorporated. But you could just as easily set up a numbered company, which is a type of corporation, or you could set up a sole proprietorship, or you could set up nothing. I know several people who have made lots of money online, and they don't have a business per se. They are simply themselves doing business as whatever the name of the website is. So that's not something that from the get-go you have to set up. But setting up a domain, that's something that you do. So a domain being your .com or .ca or whatever country code that you happen to be in. Most people get a .com to do business online. And there's a number of places that you can get them. I usually get it at GoDaddy. There's others like Enom or Namescheap or whatever. But if you're going to go with something that's simple and memorable, and frankly, the GoDaddy commercials are memorable, and so
to say the least,
it's an easy place to start, right? And while GoDaddy isn't the cheapest, neither are they the most expensive. You can get a domain through GoDaddy for anywhere from $2 to $15 a year. We're not talking huge expenditures there. And all you would do is you'd simply go to GoDaddy.com, and right in the very front of the page, there's a little bar that says type your domain here. And so you would put mydomainhere.com, and then you'd hit search. And it goes into the domain registry and looks to see if someone else has already purchased that domain. If they have, it will kick back a couple of suggestions that are similar to what you've asked for. And if they haven't, and it's available and have a nice green checkbox, and you can simply say, I would like to buy this. And you go through their steps and you purchase the domain. You set up an account with GoDaddy. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Once you bought your domain, you actually own that little piece of internet real estate.
So it sounds pretty simple.
Absolutely. In a lot of ways, setting up a domain is a lot like real estate investing. It's just significantly smaller ante. You're not buying $100,000 property. You're buying a $10 property.
It kind of sounds
And
like the simplicity of setting up an email.
well, exactly. And in a lot of ways, they're very closely related. You simply get a name and purchase it, and away you go. Once you have that domain, then you do have to set up hosting, which is where you actually store your website on the internet. So if you have a website that talks about, oh, I don't know, migration patterns of squirrels,
Very
I don't know.
interesting.
I don't know if that would be a profitable niche, but it would be an interesting one. So we're going to run with that because I think squirrel migratory patterns could be an interesting topic. And so if you have squirrelmigrations.com, that one may be taken. But let's say detailed squirrelmigrations.com, that one's probably available.
Probably.
And what you would do is you'd purchase that domain and you would create a website. And then that website has to sit on a server somewhere out there on the internet that people can then access it. So when they would type in details squirrelmigrations.com, it goes to that what's called the host and asks for the website, and then that website gets sent back to their computer, and then they see your squirrel migration website. And so,
well,
go ahead.
I assume that okay. So now I'm paying for domain. I'm assuming hosting has a cost. So where are we in that area? Because I'm a pretty frugal guy. Again, I like to try a lot of different things, but with little risk. I mean, I don't want to be spending thousands and thousands of dollars to build up a business I haven't even really got a product for. So, fill me in as we go along on the prices as well.
Sure, I'll if I forget, remind me, please. But the reality is it's not terribly expensive. I mean, to get started, you can get going for domain hosting that's anywhere from $5 to $15 a month.
Okay.
As your site builds and becomes incredibly popular, like Google.com is not on a $15 a month hosting plan. They spend millions of dollars. But by the time your website is generating that kind of traffic, you can afford that, right?
Right.
In the meantime, spending $10 or $15 a month is very good place to start. It's very, very cheap. A good place to go. Well, there's really two that I recommend. The first is Liquid Web. They're a little bit more expensive. They're more the $15 to $20 starting point. And the other is HostGator. And they're more like the $5 to $10 starting point. And both are excellent. In fact, I can speak from experience with both of them. Anytime there's been a problem, you fire in what's called a trouble ticket, which is basically sent in through email. Hey, I have a problem with my website. And they have taken care of it within a matter of minutes.
So if I have a problem with my site, I just fire off some communication to them, and they take care of all the technical babble.
That's exactly it. I mean, if you have a design issue, so let's say you've done a picture of squirrels migrating, and the picture comes out purple on your website. Well, that's a design issue. That's not really the server's problem. That's more the graphic side of things.
Okay.
So they're not going to fix that. That would be more your template side of things or your website side of things, and we'll go into more detail here as we move on. But if your website is redirecting to squirrelmigrations.net rather than .com,
that's a problem.
Then yeah, that's a problem, and that's something that they can fix in a matter of minutes. Or if your site is down, or if you're having too much email coming in, or there's a number of different things that can happen, and let's be honest, do happen. There's always something that will break your first couple of times with this, right? Okay. And it's best to get professionals to take care of it rather than having to figure out all sorts of crazy geek speak and Unix beardy type problems. Just leave it to the pros.
Okay, so I've set up a business or not, depending. I would probably opt not to at this point because it's an experiment for myself. So I've bought a domain. It's pretty cheap. I've got a hosting site now, and they're taking care of all the technical stuff. You said something about a web. So now I have to figure out what my website looks like. Is that correct?
That's right. And what you would do, there's a few options here. There's in the early days of the web, what people would do is they'd buy a program called Dreamweaver. Um,
Yes, I've
and
heard of that.
and in fact, it is a program that's still used. But what it does is it creates raw HTML files, and HTML is just the language of what makes up a website. Okay,
which I know nothing about.
Right, and so that is probably not a good option for you starting out. For some people, it may be, but there are better solutions for people who are not as technical.
Okay.
And what you can do is you can set up essentially a web engine. Okay, so it's a program that gets installed on the server that then creates the website for you. So you would go into your hosting account, either at HostGator or Liquid Web, and you go to a little button down at the bottom called Fantastico, or the equivalent. There's a few different ways to do this, and each of the hosts will tell you how to do this. But you go down to the button and you say, I would like to install WordPress, or Joomla, or Drupal. Okay, those are the three that I recommend because they're very simple to work with. Each of them has a little bit different nuances. So, for example, WordPress is one that people hear a lot about, particularly in sort of the online marketing world. And the reason why is because it's so simple to use. It is absolutely as simple as these things can be.
Simple is good. Simple's good. I like it.
That's right. Now, it's designed more in a blog format. So you create an article, and then when you create a second one, it actually shows up beneath the first one. Now, you can change that, but that's out of the box. That's what a WordPress site is designed to do. Okay. Joomla, in contrast, is more like a portal site. So if you were going to create a news site or an e-commerce site, some sort of product sales, Joomla would make more sense. It's designed where you create a page, and or they call them articles, and then they link together, but not one above the other, and you can create a little bit different structure. Okay. Drupal is the third, and it's more of a programmer's environment, a programmer's engine, in that you can make it do absolutely anything, but it's significantly more complex than the first two. So, I mean, it's one of the things that I recommend as it's a very powerful engine, but it's not one that I'd recommend for the first time around. Really, either Joomla or WordPress are my first recommendations for that.
Okay.
And pricing on that.
There you go.
Yeah, I gotta bring it up, right? Both of those products are open source products, which means that they're developed by teams of volunteers all around the world, and they are released for free. You can get them and install them for absolutely nothing.
Oh, I like that word. That's a good word. Free.
It's great. Now, that said, there are elements of it that you'll want to enhance these sites, and those will cost you a little bit. So, I mean, Derek, do you do a whole lot of graphic design?
Oh yeah, all the time. Not
all the time.
No,
I don't either. I'm honestly the programming side of the geeky spectrum here. I'm not really the art geek type. So what I've done is I actually purchase what are called templates or themes, depending on which engine you're using. And you can go to there's a few different places. If you're gonna get a WordPress site, I recommend Woo Themes. It's WOO themes.com, and you can purchase a really nicely designed template or theme that you can wrap your site in, and it makes your site look absolutely professional for anywhere from about $50 to $100. So that's probably your single most expensive portion of the whole site. You can get free themes, but you'll find that getting a professionally designed theme will actually allow you to really push your business forward.
Okay, so this is a one-time purchase.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have to do this on a monthly basis. It's just one time. For hosting, you have to pay on a monthly basis.
Correct.
For a domain, you pay once a year, or if you buy in bulk, once every couple of years, right?
Okay.
But for a theme or a template, it's just one time, and you get a license to use that theme on your site um, until the cows come home.
So if I'm doing the math, I mean, this is pretty basic investment. You know, a few dollars here, a few dollars there, maybe a $50 purchase outside of your monthly, and that's it.
That's basically it.
So far.
And honestly, where you can spend lots. Okay, I don't want to say that you can do this for absolutely free every time. There are times where it's worth spending money, right? If you're in a market where you need to differentiate yourself from 1,000 other people, it's worth it to spend a little bit to get something better than everyone else.
Okay.
But if you're going into squirrel migrations, which frankly there's probably not a whole lot of competition,
not likely.
You can spend a lot less, and so you can get some very simple themes or something professionally done, but not spend a whole pile of money doing it. And I should mention for Joomla, the place that I go to get my templates is called Rocket Themes, and they actually do WordPress ones as well. So it's rocketthemes.com, and they create some stuff that you can go into the administrative section. So you log into your website, and you can move things around, and you can change colors, and you can change fonts, and you can make it look like whatever you want, and you never ever have to touch Photoshop or any code or anything along those lines.
So it's like a point and click. You just drag this, pick that, and you're done.
That's exactly it. It's a lot like using Facebook. If you ever go through Facebook and go through and message a friend, well, if you can do that, you can set up a theme on
simple again is very good, because
exactly,
again, I'm not technical, and I don't want to write this HTML, and I don't want to program, as you say. I don't want to web design. I just want to be able to scroll through a couple of ideas, pick, and sort of layer simply that way.
Well, that's right, and all of what I've described here is you can do that.
Okay.
And then at that point, what you want to do is, there's a couple of things that you do together. You want to start building a following. You want to have a bunch of people starting to come to your website. Okay.
Okay.
And your easiest way to do that is to start creating some content. So whether that means writing articles on your website, or doing audio recordings and podcasts and these sorts of things, or creating a newsletter or things along those lines. Basically, what you want to do is you want to create something new and unique that will draw people to your website. Okay?
That makes sense. Want traffic?
That's right. You want to build up that traffic, exactly as you said. And then at the same time, you want to start thinking about this group of people coming to your site. What could you sell them? How could you make money? And sometimes that means creating a product yourself. So if we're dealing with squirrel migrations, there may be some sort of squirrel tracking device that you could sell. Again, I don't think it's a huge market, but perhaps there is. I could be wrong on that. And in that case, it would be something that you'd have to create. But if there was a product that you could be an affiliate of or a reseller of, that would be a really good place to start, because you don't have to create something new. You don't need to put in a whole pile of time to do that. So again, taking the squirrel migration thing, if there was some sort of squirrel tracking program that costs someone $10 a month to use, and you could be an affiliate and you get $2 a month for every person you sign up to that system, and your site draws all sorts of people that are interested in that, you can make good money on that. Does that make sense?
So I become like a middleman?
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, generally the term online is affiliate, but yeah, you're selling for someone else, and so you're the middleman. And
so they're not actually purchasing from my site; they're just using my site as the go-to, the purchasing site. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, if you're an affiliate, that's how it's done. If you're selling one of your own products, then they would be purchasing something off of your site.
That
right?
makes sense. Yeah.
So and there are all kinds of different ways that you can do that. So for example, if you were going to sell a downloadable book, okay, an ebook,
okay,
you could sell that using PayPal. It's very simple to set up a buy now button. You could sell that using ClickBank. or Commission Junction, or RegNow, or there's a number of different payment processors out there. And generally, what I recommend is get a payment processor that will take care of the details for you. I use RegNow myself, and I have for 10 years. Now there are other ones out there. Digital River puts stuff out, and like there's a whole pile of them out there. Okay,
of course, okay.
But you find one that you could take your ebook and upload it to them, and from a business perspective, and this is again going into the business side of things, you're not technically selling to the person that's purchased the ebook from you. You're selling to the payment processor,
okay.
And then they sell it to the end user. Okay.
Okay.
And the reason this is significant is you don't need to think about chargebacks. You don't need to think about fraud protection. You don't need to think about all of these things that you would have to think about if you were processing all of those payments yourself.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because my concern has been, it's my business. What if something goes wrong? They're paying me. There's complaints. Again, not having that business background, you absolutely, it gets scary. Like I don't want to have 10 customers and then 8 of them have problems, and then I'm dealing with all these problems, whether it's technical babble or payment battles or the ebook didn't load to their, all these sort of things. So is this what you're talking about? That they sort of take all the brunt of that?
That's precisely it. They take specifically the money processing problems, which in my experience are the bigger problems. If someone gets upset and has just decided, well, they want their money back, they take care of all of that. You simply say refund. There's a little button. You click the button,
right,
and the end user gets their money back, and you don't need to think about reversing charges or dealing with the accounting element of that. At the end of the month, or whatever the pay period is, you simply get the money from the payment processor, whether it's in the form of a check or a deposit into a PayPal account, or there's a number of different ways that they do it. And that's the one entry that you put into your accounting system.
Simple is good. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I didn't really know that existed. And I was sort of nervous getting into that area because I didn't know, again, not being a retail background, a business bracket, it just looked like a lot of work. And, when you're selling smaller products, which I would assume I would, it seems too much of a hassle.
Well, that's right. And I should mention here in terms of cost as well, some of these payment processors will charge you an upfront cost. So a setup fee.
Okay.
And that can be $50. Some of the higher end ones you can spend as much as a couple $100, and that's to cover their bases. If all of your first products that you sell get refunded, they want to have a little bit of liquid assets to be able to pay that back rather than it coming out of their pockets.
Okay.
Other ones are free, and it just depends on what you want. And take a look at each of the third party payment processors and figure out what works best for you. I know for myself, setting up RegNow, I believe it was a $50 charge when I set it up. Now that was a number of years ago. It may have changed since then, but it's very, very straightforward. But once you set up your product and you start selling, basically just sell them something else. You get a list of people every time someone buys something from you. You get their email address. You get the right to communicate with them. So find something else that they would be interested in and offer it to them, and you'll find that you get a lot of those back end sales, and you can make more and more money. Just rinse and repeat. Does that make sense?
I believe it does. I mean, it's a learning curve. I mean, as I go in and get hosting and website, I'm sure I'll have questions, but at least gives me an idea of how to start. That's where I'm at. I have a blank page in front of me, and I'm just taking notes here, and it's trial and error as far as I'm concerned. I want to try.
Well, and I think that's really at the end of this podcast here. What I really want to convey is just get out and try it. Honestly, it's not a big expense. There's not a huge risk. Just get out and try it, and you'll find that it actually goes okay, you can make some money doing this. Your first time around, you're probably not going to make thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars, but you're going to make tens upon hundreds of dollars, and considering that's more than what you're putting into it, there's a profit there.
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking for. Something that can give me some residual money that gets my initial investment covered quickly.
Exactly. So that's it for now. I mean, in the upcoming podcasts, let's cover some of the more specific details on each of those things. How to build up a list, how to build some traffic, how to set up a business. All of these sorts of details. If you as listeners are interested in anything specific, feel free to email either Derek or myself. You can get me at ben@geekinc.ca. And you can get Derek at Derek at geekinc.ca.
I'm not a geek, just so everybody knows that. Just Ben. He's the geek.
I'm a geek. Derek's a pseudo geek.
I'm a pseudo geek. There you go.
Well, that is our show for today. If you're looking for more great tips and tricks, as well as some fantastic tools to get you started, check out internetbusinessbeginners.com.